Well, in the long run, democracy has to be the answer. I mean, you know, as I may be wrong, but everything I've been taught in the ivory tower, or everything I've learned from reading about the rest of the world, will tell you that authoritarianism ultimately is not tenable. It's a band-aid strategy. It will work for 2 years, 5 years, 10 years. But end of the day, it's inconceivable that the Middle East can continue to grow in terms of demography, then continue to open up to the world and learn the things about internet, technology, modern society, etc. And the gulf between aspirations of the people and the government that they have becomes wider and wider, and nothing will happen. I mean, logic will dictate to you that ultimately authoritarianism will not last, and we do see breakdowns. Look at Pakistan in the past year or so. We thought that the story in Pakistan is about moderation versus extremism. This is what we tried to market. And the Pakistanis said, wait a minute, that is not the story. The story is about freedom and rule of law. So we have the bizarre pictures on New York Times of policemen with long beards beating up on lawyers in suits. That's the opposite of what we assumed would be who should be beating whom. But the reality of it is that we will see more Pakistans happening. We cannot gauge it. We have to realize that in the short run, authoritarian regimes may serve short-run security, stability interests of the United States. But in the long run, at some point in time, authoritarianism will no longer be the solution, and as we saw in Pakistan, will become itself the problem. The dilemma for U.S. foreign policy is that what we know is right morally, and what we know what should happen in the long run is one thing, and our short-run needs are different. And our short-run needs does not serve things that we know ought to be true in the long run. And we have never been able to bridge this gap. In fact, the Bush administration is probably the first one which, at least at the level of rhetoric, tried to create a bridge between what is good for the Middle East in the long run and say, well, you know, that's good also for the United States in the short run. But it bungled the whole thing so abysmally that we're back to the old way of thinking with a vengeance. Everybody says, yes, in the long run, we shall all live in the nirvana of democracy. But in the short run, our friends are the dictators.